Hey developers, today we're going to look at Git, the version control system. So we're going to look at how to use it on the command line. We're going to look at how you create new repos, how you do pushes, how you do pulls, how you create new branches, some real basics so you can get started. So make sure you also watch all the way to the end, and I'm going to have a little bit of assignment for you guys, so check it out. Oh, and if you don't know, my name is Eric. I'm a software developer. I have several years of software development experience. And this YouTube channel is all about learning web development, programming. I do interviews. And I'm also a big fan of Vue.js, so if you guys are interested in that, make sure you click on that subscribe button. That really helps me. And before we begin, I have a quick message from our sponsor. Before we begin, let me thank our sponsor, webdoc.io. Webdoc.io is a VPS hosting solution that uses special Linux containers. Linux containers is a new way of running your virtual machines, and it's much faster than classical virtualization. So WebDoc is a new VPS hosting provider, and they use these Linux containers with fast SSD drives to make them much faster than most of their competitors out there. So with WebDoc, you can create your perfect virtualized servers, you can configure it however you want, and they actually give you a free Let's Encrypt SSL certificate too. Another reason you should use WebDoc is that it gives you a lot of free backups that a lot of other providers don't. So please check out webdoc.io, and just for you guys who are watching this video, if you use the coupon code PROGRAMWITHERIK, you'll get 1 free month. So click on that link below, sign up for it for your 1 free month. It's awesome and amazing. Check it out. Okay, before we jump into the command line, let me show you guys Git-scm.com. It's a great resource to learn everything about Git. It actually has a full book of everything you want to know. We're not going to get into this much detail in this video, but this is a great resource. I'll leave the link below in the description. Oh yeah, and by the way, I have some of my favorite web development courses in the link below. There's a bunch of links to them in the description. If you guys buy any of those courses, I get a few bucks, so I just want to mention that too. Just double check that description. If you need to download Git, go to the git-scm.com website. From there, you can get links to download the latest version for Windows, Linux, Mac. If you're running it on Mac, there's homebrew install options. There's Mac ports options. If you're on any Linux distro, there's quite a bit of information out there how to get Git. I would recommend trying to get working on the command line first, but there's also graphical versions too. And you can see from here, I have the command line. This is what we're going to be using throughout the rest of this video. Let's go ahead and look at the directions it displayed for us. So if we look back here, it says we need to create some files. So I can echo new project, and I'm going to put that into a new file called readme.md, which is fine. And then the init command, which goes ahead and creates a new repository. Now I just created a folder here called video, so I'm gonna use this as my repository for now. And then I can add the files, and I do that by typing in git add, and I can either put in the name of the file, or if I put dot here, it's gonna go ahead and put in all the files. And then to commit it, I'm gonna do git commit -m, and then, or I could just put git commit, and then the commit message, which we're gonna put first commit. Oops, let me make sure I get this right. You can see here, this is what it looks like. Now you can see here that we have this readme MD file in here, but it's not actually in our server. If we type in this command, which by the way, at any time, if you need help with Git, you can always type in git help or just git, and it gives you a bunch of information of all the different commands. So if you ever get lost, this is a good way of remembering what to do. And you can type in git help in the name of the command, like push, and then you'll get a man page on what push does. Now this isn't super beginner friendly, but it should point you in the right direction, or use the link I told you about the Git book I had at the beginning of the video. So to actually get this added to a remote repository, if we type in git remote -v, you can see there's no remote repository added, and that's what we need. So we're going to do exactly what it says here. I'm going to copy and paste it for a second. And if I paste it here, it's going to go ahead and add it as a remote repository. So if I get remote -v, you could see here's our fetch and push for our origin. Now we can go ahead and push it. Now if you just type in git push, it's going to give you an error, and tell you need to put get push set upstream origin master. And what this is saying is that our origin is going to be set, which we said is the remote repository, is going to be set to the master branch. So every time you push from this branch, it's going to go into the master branch inside your remote repository. Now, the old school way of doing it was set upstream or set upstream to, but the better way to do it is get push and just -u for your upstream. Remember U for upstream, and then your origin, and then master. So that sets the master. That goes ahead and sets it so that next time we do a push, it remembers that we're going to use the origin remote branch for master. And we don't have to type this out every time. So if I do Erik ch here, that's mine, and I'll put in my password, it'll go ahead and push it up. Perfect. And it tells you it went ahead and created a new branch in the master, in the remote master. So if I refresh this here, you can now, I have this README file. So I pushed it up. Perfect. So what happens if we want to add more files? So I'm going to go ahead and just touch Erik 1, Erik 2. This is just a command to create files. You can see I am also using the Z shell, so it tells me what branch I'm on, and also tells me that I'm not, that not everything's committed yet. But if I do ls here, I can see Erik 1 and Erik 2. So now to know if those are actually in my version control system, I can type in git status here. And then if I put tac s at the end, you could see here I have 2 question marks. And what this is telling me is that these two aren't, what this is telling me is that these are not in our version control system yet, but they will be soon. Okay, to get this in our version control system, we just need to type in git add, or we can add them individually like this, or I could just put dot like I did earlier. If I did git status -s, I could see there's an A next to them, so I know I added them. Now to add them to the actual, to commit them into our local repository, because we basically have 2 repositories. We have the local one we have on the PC, and then we have the one on GitHub. I would git commit, and I'm gonna, if I just type in git commit and hit enter, it's gonna bring in the default program that I have set up on my system. So it has nano here, so I can just type in second commit, and then I just save it here. I'm gonna save it, and it goes ahead and commits it. And if to learn more about committing, I can go git log. I can even do -- pretty, and this will show my first commit and my second commit, or I could just do git log. It's just as easy. And you can see here it gives me a commit hash, which I can use later if I want to revert back our commits. It tells me the commit message and the date and time it was done and the email address associated with it. Now, if you remember earlier, I had to do that git push -u, but since I did that, it remembers the remote repository that I have set up. I think you can do git branch -v. It tells me some more information about the branch. But if I do, or vv, one thing you can do now is I can go ahead and push it. So I just need to do git push. You can see here it tells us that our origin branch is ahead by 1. So our local branch is ahead of the branch here. So if you look here, I don't have the extra file here. But if I log here, I do have the extra file, and if I ls it, it's there, or these 2 extra files. So what I can do is just go git push. Now this is telling me right now I haven't set up my username and password, which is fine in git config. So I'm just going to head and do it, just type in my username and password for now. So now my remote repository has the changes I just did. So if I refresh it, you can see here in GitHub, I have Erik 1 and Erik 2, which is perfect, and I have my README. So now they both match again. Now, another important thing is, especially if you have more than one person on it, eventually your local branch, this one here on this computer, is not going to match GitHub. So let's show an example of that. I can actually create new files directly from here, new file.txt, and I'll say this is a new file. Put a space here. new file, and it asks me if I want to commit directly into master branch. I'm going to do that for now, but later I'll show you a quick example of changing branches. So I'll commit the new file, and now I have this new file here. And once again, on my master branch, I don't have anything here. By the way, I can always type in git branch to see what branch I'm on. The star next to it says I'm on master. But I don't have this new file. So what I can do is I can do git pull, git pull, and it goes ahead and connects up to GitHub in my remote branch that I have set up here. If you do git remote-v, you can see this is the branch that I've set up, and it goes ahead and pulls it down, and now I am up to date with this branch here, with the master branch. So a couple of things that you might run into real quickly. So you might run into an issue where you need to revert something. So let's say I'll go into Erik 1. I'm going to VI in it, and I'll put some just random information. I'll save it. And if I do my git status, you can see here M is for modified. I modified Erik 1, but I didn't mean to modify it. I need to figure that out. So I can actually do git checkout Erik 1. And now if I get status again, you can see here it's no longer changed. If I cat out Erik 1, you can see it's back to being empty because there's no information in it. So that's a quick way of reverting your changes if you accidentally change a file and you want to go back to what's already committed for it. Another common problem is you might be changing a bunch of files, and let's say I go into new file.txt. Let's say I create a new file called new file2.txt, or mod a file, that would work the same. And I go ahead and add it. And you can see here, by the way, you can do status or status s. Status s is a little nicer. You can see new file.2.txt is added, but I actually didn't want to add it, but I don't want to lose the changes I did inside the file. So one thing we could do there is I can type in git reset. I can do status-a git status-s and go git reset and then the name of the file, new file2.txt. And if I do git status again, you can see now it has the question marks because it's no longer added. But let's say I actually add it. So I git add and then I commit it, added file here. And then I look at my log, but I haven't pushed it up to the remote repository. And I see added file here. Oops, I didn't mean to add this file here. I actually need to make changes to this file that I added. So there's a few ways to do this. One of the easiest ways is you can do git reset head with this little tilde at the end. And now you're back. This says go back one version from your head. So if you go git log, you see new file here. But if you go into git status -s, you can see it's no longer committed. I have this new file 2.txt file. I can simply remove it if I want to. And everything is fine. It's no longer it's no longer there. I don't have to worry about it. I'm good to go. So that's one way of getting rid of a file or reverting it back, and you no longer have to worry about it. One other thing you can do, so if you go into git log again, you can see we have these different versions. Let's say I want to go back to the second commit. So I can actually copy this. You don't have to copy the whole SHA, but I'm going to show you. You can go git checkout, and then you just paste this long value here, and it's basically saying that you're now in a detached head state. You can look around, make experimental changes, and commit them, and you can discard any commits you make in this store without impacting any branches performing another checkout. So now you can see here the Z shell tells me I'm on this commit, but if I do git branch, you can see here I'm on this detached branch, and if I do an ls, you can see I don't have all the files I have on the master branch at the top. So that's super useful if I need to go back and look and run this branch real quickly, or run this checkout real quickly to make sure to see where it's at. What if there was a problem? If I broke something, I can go back one. Then I can also do things like this. I can go back to checkout master, and now I'm back on the master branch. I didn't make any breaking changes. I could also have detached, created that branch, or excuse me, I could have checked out that version and then made it its own branch as well. But I'll show you that in the future if you guys are interested. So real quickly, we'll talk about one other thing, since this video is getting a little bit long, is branching. So we can see here we only have this one branch called master. Now, typically when you just have a real small personal project, that's completely fine. But as your projects get larger, you may want to start thinking about, and especially, and of course, if you bring in anybody else into the project, you might want to think of a strategy where everyone creates feature branches for your project. They create pull requests, and then someone who is a maintainer of the project can look over each pull request and then either accept them in, merge them in, or they can deny the request. And then you can also be a lot more fancy with your branches. You can have maybe a master branch that is the most stable branch that you have pushed out to production. And then you have several other branches like development or QA or things like that, which you can continuously, especially like a development branch, where you can continuously push up pull requests, merges into that branch. Then when you're ready and you know it's stable enough, you can merge that into your master branch. So that's one thing you can do. And I would think it's good practice even for your personal projects to start creating branches so you can get used to that. So to create a branch, it's really simple. So if I had a new feature, I would do git checkout. I put tac B. Just think of that as B for branch, and then the name of the branch that you want to check out and create. So I can create in my, let's see, I can create feature 1. So now I'm in a new branch called feature 1. If I do git branch, you can see now the star is next to feature 1, and I'm on the feature 1 branch. So to work with this branch, I can maybe create another file. I'll call it feature1.txt. Maybe I'll create feature2.txt. And now if I git status -s, and by the way, when you get farther along in your Git journey, you will be creating aliases for all this, or you'll be using something like I have here. I have Z shell. I can actually use a lot of shortcuts like GSS or for git status. I'm not going to do that here just to keep it easier for people who are learning Git, but you eventually want to create aliases so you don't have to type this out every single time, because it will save you time in the long run for sure. So now I have these two features here. I'm going to go ahead and add it and commit it. New feature. And if I do my git log, you can see here I have my new feature, but it's not pushed up yet. I only have one branch. So to push this up, it's just like we did before. Git push -u origin, and then the name of the branch that you want to go into, which in this case we called it feature 1, so we're going to call it feature 1 here. And now we're going to put our username and password again. And I misspelled it. Let me try that again. Okay, I went ahead and put up this feature branch. So now, if you look back here, it's now asking us that GitHub is smart enough to know that we pushed up a branch. It's called feature 1 less than a minute ago, and then I can go ahead and create a pull request. And if you look at this drop down, obviously it doesn't make sense to go to feature 1 to feature 1, but if I want to go into the master branch, this is saying you have a branch called feature 1, would you want to merge it into the master branch? And we can go ahead and create a pull request so someone on the maintainer of the project can do that for us. And if you guys are listening at this point and you made it this long, go ahead and just check out this repository. I'll put a link at the bottom and create your own pull request. Just practice with it. You know, clone my repository. If you don't know how to do that, you can go down here, go clone, and you have this address here. Clone this repository and create a feature a feature branch and then push up that feature, I'll go ahead and merge it for you guys, and you guys can get practice doing that. Or create your own GitHub repository, but I'll leave this open for anybody that wants to do that. This is the challenge for this video. See if you're brand new to pull requests in GitHub and see if you can create your own pull request. Now, if I had a integration for this, it would have go ahead and run the integration. Like if I was doing continuous integration or running unit tests, I could do something like that. But I'm just going to go ahead and merge it, and I'm going to confirm the merge. And you can see here, pull request successfully merged and closed. You're all set. And now it says I can delete the branch. I'm going to click delete here, and it deletes the branch. And if you go back to here, I'm still in this branch. I'm going to go ahead and check out the master branch again. And if you look here, you'll notice it's actually missing our new file. If you look here, we have this new feature 1 and feature 2 text files, but it's not here. So just like before, we need to git pull, and this will pull from master into our local branch here, and now they're both matching again. And if I want to go ahead and delete this feature 1 because we no longer need it, I can do git branch -d feature 1, and it goes ahead and deletes it. By the way, you can put capital D here if you went ahead and made changes to it but you never pushed it to anywhere. That's another way of doing it. So now I have deleted the branch. Everything is good. Life is good again. One other quick tip. So you'll end up having multiple branches. So if I do, let's say here, feature 2 and then feature 3, you're going to find times where you'll create a file and you're like, oops, actually this needs to be in the feature 2 branch and not in the feature 1 branch. And maybe it's like multiple files and you already added them. If I get status here, you can see here I have file 1. Now, I could just check out feature 2, and if I get status here, it's still there. So it moved it over just by checking out that other one. So remember, I can go check out, if I go get status, get branch, you can see I have my 2 branches. If I check out feature 3, it moves it over. But there's times where you might need to work on some other things first, and then you need to come back to this later, and you don't want to commit it. So you could commit this. I could git add and then commit it. But if I want to actually save it for later, I can do git stash. And what this does is it'll create a work in progress for this feature, and it'll remove this file 1 from my repository here. So now I can go back, maybe I go back to feature 2, like maybe I do a bunch of work, a bunch of things changes, and then I want to bring this over to this branch. I can git stash pop, and it goes ahead and adds the new file 1 to this branch. So now if I go git status -a again, or -s, you can see it's file 1, it's back in there again. And now I can go ahead and do everything I want. I can go ahead and commit it, add it, or delete it. And that's pretty much it. Since we're going a little long, I think that's all I'm going to show you guys today. This is just really the raw basics. If you're learning Git, get used to creating branches, checking out between different branches, pushing your commits, pulling commits after things are changing. Oh, one other useful feature I'll go ahead and show you real quickly. Let's say feature 2. I'm going to go ahead and add this new file, which if you git status, you can see file 1. I'm going to go ahead and commit it. Added file 1. Now, if I go to check out feature 3, the feature 3 branch, it obviously doesn't have file 1 in it. But if I want to get file 1 in here, I can do something called a merge. And I can there's a bunch of things you can do. I can actually get diff between feature 2 and feature 3 branches. And this will tell me the differences between the 2 branches. You can see here it says file 1, file 1, so deleted file mode, index. So you can see there's a differences between these 2. So what I could do here is I can git merge feature 2, and what that'll do is it'll add the file 1 to this branch. So if I git log, I see file 1 in my log status, and if I ls it, I actually have file 1 here as well. So that is the basics of this, of Git here. There's a couple other things you might run into called rebasing, and there might be merge conflicts. If you guys are interested in those videos, I can do a more advanced Git video where we talk about rebasing, merging, things like that. But if you guys are new, I think this is a good start for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you use GitHub? What do you think? Take care.